Hey guys, hope you've been well. My name is Vic, and today I'm gonna be breaking down my track Shoreditch. This song somehow ended up going viral on TikTok and is now sitting at 1 million streams on Spotify, which is absolutely insane to me. So before we get started, I do want to let you know I'm gonna have the project file available in the description below. So once you're done watching the video, make sure you check that out. It's gonna be free and you just get to play around with it, dissect, and see exactly how I did what I did. Looking at the project, Shoreditch is actually a very simple track, by EDM or by house music standards. There isn't all that much going on. It's just a simple drum groove, which I'm actually going to start with, and then we'll just take it from there. Starting with a 4/4 kick, just a sample from Splice that I just took a one shot and just merged it together. I'm doing zero processing on this. It just sounds very simple and very sharp. Then I'm adding a top loop, which is doing most of the heavy work. I've done a little processing on this, but it's not changing too much. I mean, I'm taking away some high end because I really wanted to make this track sound a little warmer. And to do that, a lot of the times when you remove the high end, it's emphasizing the lower frequencies, which just makes it sound a little warmer. I'm also using the Logic Enveloper plugin, which is basically making the tail of the sound shorter. I could instead just make it longer like this, which sounds pretty cool, I'll be honest with you. But for this one, I wanted them to sound a little tighter like this. Then I'm throwing in some overdrive, and again, it's just making it a little more distorted and a little warmer sounding. And lastly, I'm doing some very minor surgical EQing. I'm then adding this really weird sounding percussion layer, and originally it sounded like this. But for me, there was a bit too much going on, so I processed it, did some EQing, added some phasing, some tremolo to make it go side to side and sound a little wider. And the most important and probably my favorite plugin ever, Kickstart. Kickstart is a sidechain compression plugin. What that basically means is that every time the kick is hitting, the sound is just ducking down. This chain that you see right here, I really like to use it on my layered percussion sound so that they don't clash too much, they don't take over. They're basically just filling in pockets of space, which I find very useful in making fuller sounding drums. At the end of the loop, I have a triangle sound. Very simple triangle. I'm just adding more reverb to it, and I'm also using Kickstart. You'll see a pattern with my Kickstart use. I like to abuse this plugin. There are some more drum elements that I'll be showing you later, but for now, let's move on to the chords. I think the chords are the highlight of the track because they're just house sounding, and to achieve this really is about using minor ninth chords and just moving them up and down. Let's hear the chords really quickly. So as you'll see, I'm starting with a B flat minor 9. This is what it looks like, and it's basically a B flat minor. And then you add a 7th note and the 9th note, and that gives you a B flat minor 9th chord. And then I'm just shifting that chord around. So see, if I drag this and I just shifted it up, we get the next chord, which is an E flat minor 9th. Then, just to add a little more complication, I'm throwing in a B flat 7 sustained 2, so it's very close to a 9th chord, just a bit of a different voicing. And then I'm playing an E flat minor 9th again, but this time it's a different voicing from the other one that we had. And then second time around, it's the exact same thing, except the last chord, instead of an E flat minor 9th, we're playing an E minor 9. So what you just heard, that was the layer for the main synth sound. To layer it up, I just played a higher octave and I used the Keyscape plugin. Now let's listen to the main synth. In its current state, it sounds pretty dirty to me, so I definitely had to take off a lot of low end and some low mids as well. Okay, sounding better. Now I'm gonna throw in the Pro Q3, and you see here I identified specific frequencies that were just adding a bit of mud, especially in the lower mids, and I just took them out. The sound was very sharp, and if I didn't find a way of controlling it, I wasn't gonna be able to push the track as loud as I wanted to. So what I did is I just straight up used the limiter on this sound. As you see right here, it's now peaking at -12. Before it was peaking at like -8, -9. The sound is still the same, but now it's not peaking as loud, which means I'm able to push the track louder. And then lastly, of course, the kickstart. Every time the kick hits, the synth is ducking down. Let me get to the bass before I get to the other melodic elements, because it just makes a lot of sense. The bass is incredibly simple. All I'm doing is I'm playing the root notes of the chord. So I'm playing the very bottom notes of the chords as the bass line. It is a very deep sounding bass, very low, and mind you, that's after I processed it. I took off some low end up to 30 Hertz. I added some saturation. I really wanted to emphasize some high end because otherwise you just weren't going to be able to hear the bass line at all. One of my favorite tricks with bass lines like this is to add a bit crusher on top of it so that you can actually hear the bass, especially on phone speakers or computers or whatever, because the lower frequencies are barely audible in most cases. So if I was more aggressive with the bit crusher, you see how you're able to hear the bass even more now, just because I boosted this. In hindsight, I probably should have boosted a little more, but it is what it is. The overdrive is doing a lot here. So this is before the overdrive and after. So it's just making it distorted. In sounds like this, you have to distort the sound so that you're able to hear it. And then the kickstart. And the kickstart on the bass is even more important because you have the kick and the bass clashing together. But if the bass ducks down every time the kick is hitting, that means they won't be clashing as much. All right, back to the melodies. So I'm adding this clicky synth sound to the chords. I'm using this preset right here in the Vital synth. If you don't know, Vital is basically the free version of Serum. It's an incredible synth if you don't have it. I'm doing quite a bit of processing on it. So this is before any processing. This sounds a little too raw. I really wanted to make it sound more exciting, so I did a lot of EQing just to make it sound a little emptier. Sound Toys Microshift to make it sound wider. Echo Boy for delay. Some Valhalla Vintage Verb. And the kickstart. I also have this vocal sound. Since it is an instrumental, I thought I'd just make it a little more interesting and just throw in something on there. So this is what it is. Then I'm EQing it very heavily because I just want the vocal to be present. I don't want it to take over. So this is what it's doing. And then the kickstart. It's also important to note two more sounds that I use in different sections. Like around the 43-second mark, I just switched the regular chords to sustained chords. So I'm using the same sound, but I just wanted to switch it around just to make it a little more interesting. So here's what that sounds like. So it's the exact same chords, but instead of hitting as synth stabs, it's just a sustained synth. And then also for that same section, I'm doing the exact same thing with the bass line, just making it sustained. Alright guys, so in a second, I'm going to show you the breakdown section and how I like to just take off the tension and then build up more for the last drop. But before I do that, I do want to let you know that I'm currently offering one-on-one sessions booked by the hour. And during that call, we can literally discuss anything, whether it's production techniques, whether you want me to listen to your music and help you out with it, whether it's music business tips. So if that's something that you're interested in, the link will be in the description below. Let's continue. So let's quickly listen to the transition between the main part and then the breakdown. The main thing with the breakdown is to just take the energy away. And one way I'm doing it is with the main synth. You hear how the sound just becomes smaller? That's because I am doing some automations. So the regular low cut is at 185, but for this section, I'm making it 294. And then more importantly, as the sound goes on, the high end is being taken away, as you'll see, 20,000. If I open this out right now, it's just gradually closing the filter, and You'll see right here. Once we go back to the drop, just listen to it. That's basically the main technique that I'm doing with most of the sounds. With Vital specifically, I used a different trick. I automated the cutoff filter. So it keeps getting sharper, sharper, and sharper. And it's adding tension. And to me, it's pretty important that not everything is doing the same. The chords on top were starting to sound duller by the second. This one is the opposite, so it's a nice little contrast that's adding more dynamics to the track. So the weird perks that you heard earlier, that filter is also being automated. So it's just gradually closing down more. By the time you get to the drop, you can barely even hear anything. Then the main drum loop, what I've done is I haven't automated it, but I've added a kickstart on top of it. It gives it a very interesting sound. I mean, it's basically just removing the clap from the sound, which is pretty cool. Now compare it to the main sound. Again, it's really all about dynamics. You see, for the pre-chorus, everything sounds smaller, tinier, thinner. Then you get to the chorus and you just want it to open up and feel like something hit you. And lastly, just a little effect that signifies that we're entering the pre-chorus and then getting out of it is the fall, which sounds like this. And then I'm taking that very same fall, I'm duplicating it and I'm reversing it so that it smoothly transitions into a riser. But you also hear that there's some modulating happening. So putting on the Logic Tremolo plugin and I'm automating the depth as well as the rate. The rate is the more important one. And the way I automate that is I take the automation curve tool and usually it'd be like a linear line like this, but I just take it down so that it gradually opens up. And then by the time we get to the drop, it just gets faster and faster. And the very last thing is just this vinyl crackle right here. You can barely hear it, but I'm a very big Disclosure fan. Their vinyl is right there. I've learned this from them, just adding a lot of texture, whether you can hear it or not. The track just doesn't sound as complete without it. And that's about it for the track breakdown. Make sure to check out the links in the description because like I said, this project file is available for free download in the description right now. And I hope you find it helpful. For anyone who's been watching the channel for a while, you know I haven't been posting at all for the last year or so. So yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update regarding the future of the channel. Basically, I'm going to be shifting my focus from tutorial videos to loops and drum kits and other useful resources for producers. The good news is that a lot of it, not everything, but a lot of it is going to be free. And that's just my way of giving back to the community and at the same time growing my brand. So I'm very, very grateful for your support this whole time. And I'm very excited for what's to come. Take care. Peace.